if there's something I've learned from like Solar and Raynor and these guys and stuff is like Solar especially, because you never know when he's going to build 20 mutas or when he's just going to kill you with Roach Queen and stuff, is like, and Dark as well. They'll just sit there on Roach Queen, and I look at it from the PROTOSS perspective, and I'm like, motherfucker, it's impossible to read these guys. And that's what makes them scary. It's the only thing that makes them scary in the matchup, is it is very hard to read what they're doing. Now, that's actually huge, right? If you are too easy to read in this matchup, it's easy for the PROTOSS to like just kind of do what they want to do. So that's the secret for me, was like, oh, if you have a solid enough opening, it's actually good in like every scenario, right? Because it could be a queen walk, it could be you're just going mutas, it could be you're going to go into just a lurker hive game, and it all looks almost identical on face value. And that's not something the PROTOSS wants to be going up against, because they want different responses against all of those things, right? So that's where the solid opening is kind of the opening set piece, and you can plug that into many different paths, right? So what are the main paths from there? So main branches from it, there's obviously just a super tight queen walk, right? It's like 3 gas, 45 drones, 6 queens walk plus 8 roaches turning into ravages, or 10 roaches maybe, turning into ravages plus non-stop rains. All right, cool. That's an option. That's something that the opponents have to be scared of. What else? Spire. Into mutas is something we can do. There's also maxed out queen roach walks, which is where they start kind of second guessing and thinking you're going up the tech tree and you're not. That's something else. And then there's super generic roach hydra lurker viper, which I absolutely hate. I don't think hate's a strong enough word. For me, it feels a bit too passive. I think there was a point when I was probably the most recently at my highest peak in PvZ, was when I was doing that, and it's because no one was using lurkers, and that was just before they gave the extra range to the lurker. So no one was using lurkers in PvZ, and I was fucking everybody up with lurkers, just because no PROTOSS was used to playing against it. But now that everyone's used to it, it's very hard to kill someone, right? It ends up being like you're just turtling to late game. If people are going sky toss, you're finding yourself having to kind of go past the lurker stage. I find it's kind of like it's going to go long. So these are all different options. What's Pig's favorite kind of combination here? And I guess I'll just write that here. Pig's favorite combo that I push on everyone at the moment. And I think the game plan completely changes versus ground. I'm not going to focus on versus a non-Stargate player, because I don't think it's that important. I think it's low enough number of players that are opening Twilight that just, write down your plan for it, figure out what you're doing. But let's just focus on the Stargate player and think of that as a different separate branch and a separate set of problems. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah.
So mine would be, off that opening, fake queen walk. So your queens, your 4, 5, 6 queens, whatever many, walk forward on creep, pushing back oracles and getting tagged by the oracles, pushing back the void ray in the middle of the map, and basically maybe walk halfway, maybe 2/3, half or 2/3 across the map, then come home. Big round of mutas. The spire was going up the whole time. Spire was hidden. Where do you hide your spire? It depends on the map. Personally, you can see where I'm signaling. If you go to everyone's camera in the game.
Do it again, sorry. Okay, yep.
So I like the front of the natural personally, but it varies a little bit. Sometimes front of the third, just because I feel like my queens, my creep are all really far out from there. And for me, I see the most standard thing is the oracle comes around my backline. That's what I do when I'm PROTOSS as well with my hallucinations and my oracles, and they always scout the back of the base. But it's hard for them to come in deeper because then they're flying over queen spore territory. Now that's something you can adjust. That's meta. It's like placing a proxy, right? You don't just, oh, this is the best proxy location, always do it here on this map. That's fucking stupid because it's a meta decision, right? It's, well, where are people checking? That's what you base that decision off, is what your opponents on the ladder are scouting for. And so it should be something that naturally shifts over time. My spy is getting spotted the moment it starts every game. Well, that's an obvious tell. Change it up, just let's brainstorm a little bit and you'll figure it out. You'll find a good way of changing that.
Okay.
So I like the big round of mutas, and then a real queen roach ravager walk behind the mutas. So this is kind of like Raynor's maxed out queen ravager roach walk that he did at Katowice a lot. except you're doing it after the mutas. So the idea is you do one big round of mutas, maybe 12, maybe 15 mutas. You fly them around, do as much damage as you can. Hopefully you've hidden them as much as possible. You always go for the probes if you can. Avoid fighting the Void Rays, right? It's always tempting. Oh, the Void Rays are annoying me, trying to snipe my lair. It's like, no, your queens can defend that. If you go on the Void Rays, they just recall. You get one Void Ray. That's not worth showing the mutas, right?
Right.
And then you walk your Queen Roach Ravager across the map, and that's that. Now, the other favorite option, which I'm starting to enjoy more, second favorite combo, is the same thing. Right? Except we're going to copy paste that down. That last one. Drone 4th and 5th base gases. And go Mass Air. So Corruptors versus Phoenix. Mutas versus everything else, basically, right? And the idea is you just use your mobility to constantly pick off and trade, and pick off and trade. Add speed banes and melee ups for rolling into economy as well. Now I was actually just in EPT this week doing that and killing someone, and then I threw the game really hard by trying to fight with not a big enough army versus Mass Void Ray. And I was doing the lazy thing of, you have lots of Void Rays, I'll just parasitic bomb them before the fight happens. And it was actually a high-level PROTOSS player who split their Void Rays up. So the parasitic bombs weren't useful because I'd used them before the fight happened. You need to abduct units, right? So the final step is add Vipers for abducts. But we honestly want to win on lair tech. I'd rather you just lair tech the boot.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah, and just win there or die trying, and you know, watch some Mio Micah games for inspiration if you need it. You're like, just go fucking hive, man, make some spellcasters, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna make another 15 mutas and just keep trading. And the thing is, if you're on 5 bases and he's on 3, you can be pretty inefficient. You can get a 6th base up as well, like especially if you get like just one wave of banelings to clear out a mineral line. Suddenly that efficiency factor doesn't matter that much. So it's just what got me killed really the other day is, if you damage economy a lot, focus on base trade as win condition, because their army keeps getting stronger and stronger, right? If you're not trading with the army but you're killing lots of probes, keep avoiding the army. Okay. So that's win conditions. So I made the mistake of, I ruined that PROTOSS economy in that game, but then I tried to fight his army when he pushed. Well, why did I do that? Why was I heavy on Corruptors? I should have been on mostly Mutas and more Lings and Banes. And when he pushes out, just avoid it and just keep going, no, I'm going to base trade you, bro. I've already ruined your economy. You've got this immobile blob of carrier Void Ray. I've got Lings and Mutas. Now, on the other hand, if you keep killing the army, focus on just winning, right? Like if you keep catching a Void Ray popping out, you know, or he's, you know, when they move somewhere and their units spread out, you just run in and kill 2 carriers and run away before his army even really turns on you.
Yeah.
You get in that sort of stuff, you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like I can actually just kill his army, or whenever his army's a bit too weak to fight me, I can do the economic damage. That one's a bit more simple. So the more important one though is, if you're ruining their economy, it's easy to feel like I'm winning, and you feel like you're so cocky and stuff because you've killed so many probes. But it's like, even if you've got that PROTOSS down to a 35 probe economy or something, it's like, well, you haven't killed any Void Rays or carriers and stuff, and that number's building, and he's got like +2 and then maybe +3 attack. It's like, that's a very scary army. So it's just kind of putting that in context. If your opponent can't defend their economy, can't do anything but build one big scary A move ball, that it simplifies the scenario. A lot of people go, how will I ever kill that ball with just Mutas and Lings and Banes though? And you're like, well, you actually just don't. It's the same reason why I say versus Skytoss, we often want to go Ling Bane Ultra to just keep killing their economy versus someone who's making carriers, and avoid actually getting an army that can kill the air units. And just, you know, say, I've got a big economy and I can kind of kill your economy and trade with you all day, and your slow air units have to just sit at home. And that's kind of, I'm defending your air units without actually having things that shoot up. Similar to in Zerg versus Zerg, you might go upgraded Zerglings en masse and skip spores against a muta player, because you know those muta players can never leave home, because you've got like these packs of Lings that are just running in all the time, so they're just stuck defending, and you're like, you've had 15 mutas out for 5 minutes and you haven't had a single chance to come across the map, and so I've gotten away with 0 spores. So it's a little risky, but it's the sort of thing that we can really abuse people with.
Okay. like the sound of that.
So that's a lot of theory. We've given you a big list to go back to. Now let's actually look at these concrete examples, shall we? So I'm just going to do this underneath all those notes, and we'll start going down there. Okay. ZvP. Let's take a little look-see, shall we? Okay. Let me turn my... I like having the sound on. It's just a little loud. Okay. So you've opened up with a pretty cheesy opening this game. Let's actually... I guess we can look at where this goes. So it looks like you've defaulted to like Roach Hydra Lurker. Or just Roach Hydra.
I think it was just Roach Hydra, which is not normally a comp that I do, but I guess in this game I think I usually use the Roaches for early defense, and then I don't actually trade them out so that I can go into like Lingbane Hydra Lurker or Ling Hydra Lurker. So then I'm stuck on Roach Hydra.
You know what? If you went for drippy droppies, this would be pretty cool, man. Like if you started dropping like 8 Hydras in the main, and then you had like 4 Hydras come around the top left to drop in the back of the third, and then the rest of your army threatens the front like you're doing here. Because when you get with maxed with Roach Hydra, otherwise your units like stack up so much for those storms, and they can always like retreat through the shield batteries and stuff, and it's just like, man, they've got so many layers of like safety here, keeping them alive, right? So if you do get stuck on like Roach Hydra, you want to do like a style, think of your Roach Hydra as Marine Marauder, and just be like one of those Terrans that's like, oh, I'm just going to multi-drop Marine Marauder, and like I never need to build Vikings to counter the Colossus or whatever, because I'm just multi-pronging. That's my game plan, and it allows me to have a simple army. So if you like, I'm not sure how much you are into like the dancing that drops around and the multi-prong and the running in Roach squads from different directions, but that can be like a fun style which does surprisingly well, and nobody does it in the longest time, and just in terms of style points, it's fucking fun to pull off. So even if you only have a 50% win rate with that, it's going to feel better than that just because it's so much fun to do. So that's the sort of shit that I enjoy, gets me going. So yeah, something to consider.
I would definitely consider that. I think I get into this headspace because I'm so used to playing against, this game aside, against Skytoss players that get really defensive with a bunch of cannons and batteries that I feel like I can never get any sort of economic damage done. So it never crosses my mind to like, oh, drop in the main or,
And if they do have like a cannon battery in the main or something, right? It's like, okay, cool. Like that's, okay, I'm going to do like at always 4 Overlords might be the rule, right? So it's like, it's enough, like 16 Roaches and Hydras, right? 8 Roaches, 8 Hydras, or whatever. It's enough that you're just going to click the battery down, click the cannon down, kill the 8 Zealot warp in or whatever it is so quickly that it doesn't matter, right? So whereas if you do, say, an 8 Hydra drop is kind of an awkward count because they can just warp in 8 Zealots and it beats 8 Hydras. So like, I might go, I'm going to do 4 Hydra drops, but I'm going to just hit 1 in the back of this base on the left, 1 in the back of the main, and 1 there. And the whole idea is I'm going to just pick them up and pull away every time. And that style is like, especially like in this scenario, right? He's got nothing that shoots up other than Archons. You could do that and like dance them in and out all day, right? And it's like, cool. But you just realize you're never going to be able to stand your ground. Whereas then there's like the other rule, which is like, oh, if I actually want to fuck shit up and force a recall or force him to pull army back, I need to have enough that a single warp in doesn't deal with it, or a single warp in a battery doesn't deal with it. So suddenly we can look at like that previous fight where you're pushing and you could say, oh, if you split half your army over the far right, half on the far left, and you just kind of went in from both sides at once, and you went, oh, his army's here, fully disengage that half of the army, just run it all the way back, micro the other side of your army, and do whatever damage you can with it. Like, so it doesn't always have to be drops, but it can always just be multi-prong as well. And especially if you get stuck on Roach Hydra, usually you're going to need to try and multi-prong a little bit, maybe split off 10 Roaches and try to run them in the natural and the main and just focus down probes, these sort of things. I would say though, it's definitely not my favorite scenario to be in, so don't leave the replay, of course. This is a hard one, but let's go back. So you've done a 13-12 this game.
Yeah.
So let's take a little look-see. So obviously, is this like an all-in, or you just try to force an overreaction and get a macro?
Force an overreaction into macro. If I do an all-in version, I won't take a natural, and I'll just I will get a lair and go Nidus.
Yeah.
But in this scenario, yeah, it's just forcing a reaction. I think there was at one point, I want to say it was Raynor, who was doing a 13-12, where he would do 13-12 and then just take like double expand and then macro out of it really hard, which I guess is kind of like what I thought here, but I never took the third hatch.
Your opponent, Mr. Najdorf here, did a really good job of being greedy as fuck here. That Nexus is real early. Like a lot of the time in this scenario, the Nexus hasn't started yet and you're feeling good. Now, you try to get in here. If you got those Zerglings inside, I mean, or if you were continuing to build, that would be brutal. Now, not to give you too much of a bad influence, but we could study at the school of Reaper. I didn't
Sorry,
see
say that
how
again.
we could study at the school of Reaper, who has been playing the game for like a year and has hit 6.4k on EU. He's the guy who has the 12 pool account on NA Ladder, where he 12 pools every single game and still kills all the 6k players every game. So like, we do a 13-12, so just kind of pointing out Reaper, what he would have done here would do just the 12 pool Ling pressure, still pretty fast gas behind it. Make 3 Roaches into Ravagers, no Ling speed, till after Ravagers are morphed, right? So that's like the full backup. And
Okay.
and just 3 Ravager plus Slowling rally to bust the wall, depower the gates, and just win the game. And
Okay.
that can be very surprisingly effective. Now, in terms of the actual 12 pool, I do think it feels like our Lings took a little longer than they could have. Let's take a look. Killing the probe is very important, of course. I think you missed your next pair of Zerglings here. So you should be trying to build that already. Notice that lava's just sitting there.
Yeah.
And you're focusing on your micro here. And you're getting fancy trying to catch that probe. I would have liked you to just click on that probe initially, but that's okay. We still haven't built that next pair of Zerglings. That's really important. Because getting up to 8 and then 10 Zerglings, those are the points where it's like, bam, we can overwhelm and kill shit, right? So missing that, I think, is a real bummer for you in this scenario. So definitely make sure you go the 10 Zerglings. Just kill that probe, get straight across the map. And when you get across, do you control group these Zerglings separately?
The ones I pull back?
Yeah. So what's really nice is if
not
you
in
actually
this case, no.
if you split them up like completely like this, so it's these first 4 Zerglings that go on the gateway pretty consistently. It's like 4 Zerglings can safely hit the building, right? So you kind of put those on 1 and the others on 2 or something like that. Lambo has a system for it that he explained in his video. I started doing it the same way. And it's just much easier. And then like the other 6 Zerglings coming are just ready to do exactly what you did there, but it's just a little more chill. So make sure all 10 Lings build ASAP, right? That has to take priority even over the hatchery starting. Delay your hatchery a few seconds if you have to. It's more important to get those Zerglings, okay? Control group them separately if you can. If you get inside, there is definitely, I think, running circles would have been better than going for the pylon maybe. It's not bad, but going for the probes in the main and then forcing those adepts back could be pretty nice as well. So it's an option. Also, these last Zerglings, I hate those.
Yep. Yeah, that was bad.
That's the, oh, I'm in. If we had more Zerglings right now, it'd be great. Let's start more Zerglings. Like, they're not going to be here for like 45 seconds. They're not going to be relevant, right? That's a bad habit we all fall into. Now, as it is, you traded with the Zealots. You depowered one of his gates, so his second adept's not out for the counter pressure. And you are able to drone up here and get in, I guess, a decent position. Let's see. Does this end up being a decent position? You're building 10 more Zerglings right now. So we're not in the greatest economic position. I would say 18 Zerglings is on the stronger end of things. Now, it does allow us to just surprise a move and shut this down, which is good. But you really want to make sure you just kill these units as quickly as possible. So we should be droning as hard as we can, getting back to injecting. You get all the kills, which is awesome.
And then
I love that
8 more Lings instead.
the bot's trying to let you in his base. This is fantastic. His adepts are not in position. You could run in there.
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice that. Wow.
The little bot was hugging his adept there for a little bit. I'm like, I don't know if it was stopping it from moving in or what, but yeah. At this point, we're going super early Roach Horn. We've got fuck all drones. This feels like a bit of a shit show, right? It just feels a little bit messy, and it's partially because we went for such an aggressive start. So definitely learning off a less aggressive opening can help us out. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, though, to make your opponents play below their skill level to play aggressive. I do think it's important for us to specialize in one, though. So we could go 12 pool, just gasless 12 pool every game, force pretty much the same reaction you did here, but have a way more economic follow-up. You know, earlier hatchery, earlier queen, all that sort of stuff, and be pretty damn good. So what do you think would probably, do you want to keep opening aggressive like that, using a hatch block, just going hatch first, or just going pool first, maybe into expand? Like, what do you think is kind of the focus that we should do?
I would ideally like to feel comfortable actually opening hatch first.
Okay.
I didn't realize when I gave you, or I set up this replay, that this was a 13-12. I looked at the time in SE2 replay stats, and it showed that it was a 15-minute game, so I figured that it was more of a macro opening, and it wasn't. But
well, it's a nice long game, right? So we do see a lot of different things. I mean, what a bizarre push from your opponent as well, right? What is this? It's 5 gate. I mean...
Yeah, I don't know.
I thought you cut units too early. I thought the spine was a little bit panicky, which you did end up canceling. But you do shut it down, which is nice. And your opponent has like no tech and can't secure a third. So this is like the classic. Basically, your opponent's done exactly what every PROTOSS player does when they get 12 pulled. If they like get a little bit too antsy, where they just forget all their basics. You know, they're like, 5 gate attack. And I'm like, well, that's actually a really good way to punish someone. Like a 5 gate attack, sure. But why do we have Void Rays first? Like they don't add much to that, right? Number one. Number two, we don't have a proxy pylon, so that makes no fucking sense. And now what are we doing? Oh, now we're going to drop a third base and double gas, and we're floating a ton of minerals, and we're not probing, and we're just confused, right? And this is great. This is the power of the 12 pool. Is your opponent's just going to shit the bed afterwards a lot of the time. I know because I've done it as the PROTOSS player far too many times until I just decided just do my normal build order. Even though the Archon drop will be late or the Adept timing will be late or whatever it is, just follow a normal solid build order after I've been 12 pulled, because otherwise things can go a bit too off the rails. So this game's actually going to stabilize pretty well from here, right? But you've gone double Evo. We're never going double Evo again in this matchup. Too low value on those upgrades, right? Because we want to be hitting sharp tech timings. We want to be throwing a Roach Queen walk into our opponent's face, just killing him. Straight up, really easy, right? Or we want to be going to those mutas, straight up, hard, sharp muta timing. We can get a single Evo for range upgrades, but the carapace just isn't going to help us out enough to be super worth it. And yeah, so we can see here, we're just kind of going Roach Hydra. So this looks like the setup for like that Roach Hydra Lurker style I said I really don't like, because you kind of just end up kind of sitting there. And that's what double Evo is good for. I'm just defending with queens, we're getting lurkers, and we're going to get vipers, and we'll just play like late game with Infesta, Viper, Broodlord, Corruptor, Spore. We'll build 86 Spore Crawlers on the map, and then we'll, you know, play a 45-minute snooze fest with the opponent until one of us falls asleep on the keyboard. I mean, it's not even a snooze. It's very skillful. It's very skillful, right? It is. It's just incredibly... there's a lot of attrition, right? A lot of patience, a lot of not getting over eager. And I think if we're sitting back this much, we do give too much room to our opponent. So it's kind of funny because your opening really fucked your opponent up because you took the fight to him. But then we've kind of gone to a position where it's like, you know, well, we're going 2-2. We're still building queens for some reason. You know, what are they for? If we're building hydras, why do we need queens, right? We'd rather do one or the other. And if we're playing to hive, we really need to have that hive already on the way because we're playing late game. But if we're doing a timing attack, well, we shouldn't be starting 2-2, and we should already be cascading across that map. We shouldn't be building 3 Spore Crawlers on each base. So what we see here is like, if we don't have a game plan, we're naturally going to be just doing a little bit of everything. And that's what you're doing here, is a little bit too much of everything without a timing attack in point. And if we don't have a timing attack or a set of timing attacks, like I said, like Roach Queen, into Muta, into Roach Queen, something like that, right? We've got like layers to it. We end up just kind of, oh, I'm building... How many spores have we got this game? We've got 4, and we're building 4 more. So we're going to build 8 Spore Crawlers and 9 queens while going hydras, which means we don't need any spores or queens. If we had those hydras out just a little early to defend the Void Rays, you could be like, oh, I got away with 5 queen opening, and then I just went straight to hydras really quickly with like a slightly faster layer. Bam, we've got a build that cuts all this bullshit out of the build order. And we go, yeah, and it's a +1 range timing attack, and I'm hitting when there's only 2 immortals, there's no Psy Storm. Look at this army for your opponent right now. That's not a strong army, right? You give it 2 minutes, it's going to become a really strong army. And that's what we're hunting for, PvZ. We're always looking for the moments before they get all the pieces together. But look at his economy. Our opponent has the most obscene economy I've ever seen. PROTOSS player who's literally got 3 immortals, 4 immortals, and a few High Templar with no Psy Storm, and like 5 Zealots, and 5 unupgraded Adepts, and 5 Void Rays. This army doesn't compete in any fight against any sort of simple attack. And that's awesome. That's the power of our 12 pool. So let's theorize a little bit. Let's hop out. Well, actually, we could stay in this game for a little bit and just kind of watch how it plays out. But more importantly, let's look at those notes. What do you think out of the ones that I mentioned, the different branches we could do? You know, my favorite combos, whether it's the Queen Walk into the mutas into the Queen Walk, or the fake Queen Walk just into Mass Air play. Does any of that appeal to you? Do you think the Viper Lurker style, but trying to hit just a quick Lurker timing once the upgrades kick in for them, is that something that kind of meshes for you? What are you thinking?
Looking at the notes, I think my favorite so far would probably be your second favorite combo off of the
Is that the Mass
fake
Air
Queen
one?
Walk into, yes, Mass Air. Corruptors versus Phoenix, Mutas versus everything else.
Awesome. So that's just like mass muta corruptor, steadily adding banelings if we get there, but hopefully we just win the air fight. Lots of clumping up our mutas, running in there, picking off with 2 Void Rays, running away, going around,
Yes.
killing 10 probes, running away, run to a new angle, just constantly rinse and repeat, and 10 gas muta to the point where you can start just overwhelming. Awesome. That's
Love
a really fun style, man. You get to Bly is the player you want to watch. Any Bly on Blackburn, he always ends up going Mass Air on Blackburn. I don't even know why, but he makes it look bloody good. So yeah, that's awesome, dude. That's a really fun style. So let's go back in this game just to kind of visualize. Visualizing is really important. Let's look at when we defend this 5K, right? Okay, you're still going to have roaches for defense, right? You're still going to go a decent number of queens. All right, we're going lair. Now, at this point, we would not be going double Evo. Let's say we go single Evo. Our lair's pretty late in this game. We definitely would have liked that to be a little bit earlier, but this opening's a bit of a shit show, so it's hard for me to point out the exact marker of when that should have gone down.
Okay.
Because that attack kind of distracted you, but I would say probably right when that attack's hitting you, maybe earlier. Because like if you're going up to 3 gases, you're only on 34 drones. So if we look at it in terms of like drones, you'd want to have 2 bases saturated. And then you can go roaches and an extra gas or an extra 2 gases like you did here. So in terms of like general economic timings, yeah, we can start writing this up the very top, by the way. So I'm going to go up to the very top of our notes. So let's kind of go, okay, macro rules, right? So I think your openings are probably going to be pretty logical already, but we just want to do things like, oh, okay, when do we get a roach warren and our extra gases? Okay, let's imagine there was no aggression coming out of your opponent here.
Thanks for the Bezos box.
We would basically drone till you have 2 mineral lines going.
Okay.
And then at 2 full mineral lines, we would go roach warren, second gas. And if we haven't already gone back on gas, which we probably should have by that point, depends on our build order, then we'd put back on gas. So basically 2 base saturation equals roach warren plus extra gas. And then a lair soon after that, right? Now, we could say 2.5 base saturation, right? And this is obviously assuming our opponent's going Void Rays and stuff. Yeah, let's say 2.5 base saturation. So you should already be droning your third a little bit, and then we'll go up to it. Okay? And then we'd be kind of going, okay, Spire as soon as possible when our lair's up, right?
Okay, yeah.
Still build some defensive roaches, but not too many. Skimp as much as possible, right? Queens should spread creep and zone aggressively. What do I mean? Like, okay, well, they're basically making sure oracles and void rays don't get anywhere near your spire, right? And if possible, we get forward. So the void rays are maybe coming across to harass our main base, but then we've already got 4 queens this far off creep kind of meeting them and starting to push forward. And your opponent's going, oh, fuck. The void rays are running back to their third and they're dropping cannons and batteries. And like the earlier we can get that fake queen walk kind of posture going out, the better, right? So we should be going 66 drones. Try to get gases on 4th for 72 drones, right? Very important. Big round of mutas, right? Big round of mutas. Hide it. Get it into their main base is the goal, right? Without being seen. And behind that, what are we doing? 5th base. Plus gases on it. Droning. Let's say 85 would be our goal.
Okay.
Then just mass muta. Yeah, corruptor. Potentially using whatever Ling Roach Ravager to also combo attack or distract on the ground, right? That's often the form of just running in and sniping a fourth Nexus that's building or something like that, making them cancel it. And obviously, if we're under attack, if they attack as mutas are on the way or going in, what would you swap to production-wise? Obviously, you're not going to drone. If you're like, oh, he's doing an Immortal Archon Zealot push, what would you produce?
I would say roaches, but
Yeah.
oh wait, Archon. Wait, you said Archon Zealot. Yeah. I would say roaches.
Yeah, morph as many Ravagers as you can as well, but Roaches, that's it. Roaches, Spines if you really are surprised by it. But obviously there's always that weak point, right? When your mutas are kind of coming out, right? And that's where scouting can be effective, right? So what's actually scary there? Just kind of thinking of theory. What if they like skip gases on third base and do like a 55 to 60 probe, 8-gate Immortal Archon charge timing, right?
Yeah, that's really difficult. Yep.
That's probably gonna kill you as your mutas are popping, right? Okay. But it's scoutable, isn't it? Right? So what are some of the tells of that, right? Well, there's a few tells, quite a few. There's a few tells. Obvious one is no gases on their third, right?
Yep.
Probably skipped a forge. They probably don't have anything like probably skipped forge. No second robo. Gates are quite fast as well, right? So you're going to see a player who's like, basically, what have they got? They've just gone 2 Immortals, 2 Archons, Prism, 2 rounds of Zealots. Bam. Right? 16 Zealots, 2 Immortals, 2 Archons. Maybe they had some sentries from earlier in the game. It's like, okay, cool. That's pretty bare bones. So you can see that army building, right? So you can see when you're running Zerglings around, hey, this guy doesn't have gases on his third. Oh, also, he has like some Zealot Archon building. This guy only opened 2 Void Rays and he swapped into Zealot Archon Immortal, right? It was just, I'm getting 2 Void Rays to like defend and kill Overlords, and then I'm going full ground. Okay, that's very different to when you go in there and there's like 1 Adept in the pylon between the Nexus and the third, and it's fully saturated with both gases, and he's doing nothing but making Void Rays, right? And you're like, yeah, I don't need to fucking worry about anything except Void Ray harass, right? So there's different lines that we'll get familiar with. It's just always important to remember as you're learning it. Just look at the replays and make sure you clarify, hey, what's this guy doing? And that way you can, oh, okay, did I recognize that this was a very different situation to the mass carrier, the guy that went carriers after his first 2 Void Rays game before? Oh yeah, this was 1 Void Ray, 1 Oracle into Blinkstalker, Sentry, and he did a big 8-gate Blinkstalker Sentry push off 3 base. Okay, that's obviously very different, right? Why was I building Queen number 9 and 10 and 3 spores in my main and 3 spores at my 4th, right? Because sometimes you're just on the track from the previous game. We're so focused on just doing what we had to do in the previous game, we kind of forget to adjust. So as always, just take a breath when you're learning it and kind of go into the contextual phase of like, okay, check the replay. Did I do my build correctly? Yeah, I did. I did this. Awesome. Check it off. Feel good about that. Give myself an A+. If this was the previous game, that would have been an A+. This is a different game. Okay, my opponent was doing a completely different thing. There's actually a really obvious tell here. I can always run my Zerglings around to confirm that. So in this replay, obviously the timings are all late, but look at this. If I'm running a Zergling in, what am I seeing? 2 Robos and a Forge. Big signs of a longer game commitment. I'm not scared of a fast attack, right? Because gas on the third, plus a Forge, plus 2 Robos. These are all signs of a longer game, right? Whereas if instead I see 2 Archons morphing here, 8 Zealots and an Immortal, don't see the gas, don't see the Forge or the Robos, I'm like, well, motherfucker. Like, hopefully I have Overseer as well going in, but we're probably going to be seeing, this guy's already on 8 gateways and everything. Whereas in this game, we see what's our opponent got. It's going to 3 base full economy, only has 5 gateways, is getting the upgrades, the tech, is preparing for a longer game. It's pretty slow on his Twilight Council, but of course he's making extra Void Rays still, so that does make sense. It's been an awkward opening. But it's just kind of good to tally that up, right? The more tech, the longer the game, the less the chances there are of them actually attacking you. And often we sometimes overcomplicated the Zerg players, and you look at the replay and you go, wait a second, the normal build, there's just no army. This build, the guy's already got Archon Zealot Immortal massing up at his third base. Like, they can't really hide that from you very well, especially Archons and stuff, which can't even move in and out of their wall. Like, this stuff actually poking Zerglings around is how you'll see all those top Zergs get most of their scouting info. So if we find there's a point where we regularly die with a build, we can just like make a really set point, like 6 minutes every game. I make sure I run those Zerglings around the front to get a look at what they're committing to. Some rule like that can patch up a lot of our weakness with this style.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, that'd be good. That's definitely something I struggle with in ZvP is scouting, and specifically because I don't know what the tells are for specific builds. So it's like I see a Void Ray and I'm like, well, how am I going to get an Overlord to tell if it's follow up Void Rays, or is he making carriers, or is he doing adepts? So that follow up scouting is really important.
It's huge, man. It's huge. The number of times I see Solar just running those Zerglings around and he just sees the Adepts just before they move out, as opposed to someone who catches them 3/4 of the way across the map after the Stargate. And, he's got the roaches popping in time, and it's just a completely different thing. It's just those Zerglings going, hey, what's out front your base, right? I remember surprise charge lot timings used to get me. And I'd be like, man, there's like no tells that they're going to do this. And then I was like, oh, he has a Zealot defending his third instead of an Adept, and a Zealot in his natural wall. This is like the most blatant thing in the world when I actually think about it. I'm like, the guy didn't make a single Adept this game. Like, yeah, this is a brutal timing, but like, it's kind of telegraphed. Like, why is this guy using Zealots to defend everything instead of Adepts, right? And likewise, there's games where like, it's like, hey, it's 4 minutes 30. They don't have Warp Gate yet. And they've only built a Zealot in the natural wall. Like, they clearly are just only putting gas into flying units. This is a full Skytoss player. It's not made Warp Gate. Okay. Didn't even want to make an Adept or a Stalker. There's 2 Stargates making probably carriers or Void Rays right now. There has to be. Because there's just nothing else my opponents showed me. And with no Warp Gate, I mean, what could he surprise me with? All the scary Protoss attacks go out the window if there's no Warp Gate.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. I didn't think about it like that.
So this is obviously a shitload of information right now. Let's take a look. How much time do we have left? How long have we been on call? Almost an hour. We don't have long. Let's go in and let's quickly host up a custom map, your map choice, and let's just kind of go through and I want you to show me your most standard hatch first versus Protoss build. Oh, I pressed the wrong button, did I? Oh, sorry, chat. Wrong button. They can see now. Eon Blue says, when natural is full is superior to timestamps. We've added a timestamp on top. It's 2.5 base saturation. So it's 8 drones on the third. That's the main marker. The timestamp, the 445 is kind of just extra context for that. If it's a clean early game, just a nice way of giving ourselves multiple things to check on. Yeah. Oh, the Eon Blue says, for back onto gas, well, it's the first inject. It's those drones there is the way of thinking of it, which is just when you're about to saturate your natural, because this way you're making sure you use the drones that are popping out. So they pop out right at 3:30. So first inject is back on gas timing, ZVT, ZVP. Any hatch first build, that's what we want to memorize for the guys in the chat. You definitely want to set timing, something that's solid. Something that's solid. So the point stands. What Eon Blue said in theory is absolutely correct. All right. Let's pause for a moment. Your Overlord positioning is giving me a hernia right now. There could be depth shading in. We wouldn't see shit. You're focusing on the build. That's fine.
Yeah, sorry.
Do you normally send 2 Overlords across the map versus Protoss? Or is that just a Terran habit?
That's a Terran habit.
That's a Terran habit. Okay, I told you to play like Terran, so that's fine. Okay, cool. So normally we'd have that second and third Overlord just out front our bases, kind of forward warning of the Adepts. That's fine. Just wanted to check that. You're doing pretty good, mate. You did just drop a Roach Horn, though. So we want to go 2.5 base saturation.
Oh, 2.5.
We're dropping that Roach Horn. And we want to pair it up with a second gas and then a layer. So the Roach Horn timing you're doing here, this is what we would do against Twilight Opening. Roach Horn and second gas would be this early. That's a separate branch of the build because they'd hit a minute earlier or more with the Glaive Adepts or whatever, right? So the important thing here is we need to keep that droning going, the injecting, the overlords, all this stuff. So you've got one overlord finishing in 5 seconds. You can see your supply blocked, right? So we can we can queue up another overlord right now. That's fine. It's only a small supply block. You can queue up another overlord straight away, and then obviously be holding down. Well, it's actually time for us to inject, so we can do a macro cycle, get that one going, right? That'll be awesome. But just cancel the Roach Horn for now. Let's just try and kind of sync all that together. Now, let's imagine like we're playing versus Void Ray and stuff, right? So that Void Ray is about to pop out and is going to start killing your overlord over the natural, right? Or maybe we've sent the overlord in, whatever it is, right? But the point being, you're going to need to build extra overlords. If you ever see, oh, he's building a void ray, or here comes a void ray, you always need to build. If I'm losing an overlord, I just build like 2 extra overlords immediately, basically as an extra thing. But other than that, we might pull back any other overlords we have out spotting, right? But other than that, what have I forgotten to say here? I think we're doing pretty good. Queens and spores. Queens and spores. So that's something we should probably add in here. Are you going to try and defend with just queens and skip the spores until after you actually see an oracle? Or do you like to build a blind spore and play it really... Like what do you do?
I would usually build a single blind spore in my main or my natural, and then I'll use 2 queens to defend whichever base doesn't have the spores.
Cool. So what time would you drop that spore? Like about now? About 3:45?
Yeah, 3:45 or 4 minutes at the most. I try and, like, if I see a Void Ray first with my Overlord, I'll delay the spore until, like, 4 minutes. But if it's not a Void Ray, obviously I will put it down much earlier.
Okay, so 3:45 spore in the main. Make sure 2 queens in the natural. Big thank you for the subs and everything, guys. Really appreciate it. We'll give you guys a big shout out in a moment. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, okay, cool. So we can, first things first, when we unpause, let's just get a macro cycle going, right? Inject, build some overlords and drones. Like I said, you've got 1 drone popping in 5 seconds. Keep that in mind. When I pause, it's very easy to forget that. And then just build the spore in the main. Make sure you've got the 2 queens in the natural. So we haven't started the 3rd queen yet. Oh, we have, but it's in the main. Okay. So normally we'd want to start that on the natural, right? Closer to the action or something. One way you can do it is you could inject in the main and then bring her down to the natural. Whichever system works for you, but try to do it the same way every game. Just so it's always the queen pops in the natural right when the oracle would come in. I've got 2 queens there and the spore finishes in the main. Which way do you think you're going to do this? Spore in the main or the natural?
Probably spore in the main.
Okay. And then we want to try and get more queens up in the near future as well. So I think what's more important than the Roachhorn and stuff is we want to make sure we're getting a 4th and 5th queen before that as well, right? So it's obviously drones, overlords takes priority. Injecting takes priority. We want to also get a 4th and 5th queen started at some point here. And that would be after 2 base saturation. So I think it's 2 base saturation. You get your 4th and 5th queen started. We then build another 8 drones. And then it's 2.5 base saturation, Roachhorn, second gas layer. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yep.
This is rough. We can adapt this, all right? We can adjust this a little bit. This is kind of rough, but we've got some markers. So anyway, this is a lot. We're going to fuck it up. That's good. Fucking it up so we can learn is good. You ready to go?
Yeah. Yep.
All right, let's kick off with the macro cycle.
Game resumed.
Successful.
Thank you so much, Carter Rabo with the tier 1. Welcome to the Pigsty. Scroggy with the 15 months. Kill Kenny, Triple Helix, Angeline, Tammy, Bellringer, and Mac Diddy. Thank you, gang.
So 2.5 base saturation would be after
8 drones on the 3rd, yeah.
8 drones on. Okay.
So just basically spend all your lava here on drones and maybe an extra overlord kind of thing as priority even before the roaches potentially. But that's okay. It doesn't really matter too much. You got a lot of lava, so keep droning like a madman here. You're doing really good. And obviously, if you need to build an extra spore on your 3rd or something, that's fine. If there's oracles darting around, you can build a spore in both. If there's no oracles, we'd skip the spores completely, right? We just have that one in the main and nothing else. Obviously, if we forgot the one in the main, that's fine.
Okay, so then at this point, am I going lair? Sorry.
Yeah, lair goes down with the Roachhorn in the second gas. It's Roachhorn second gas, then lair. So it's those 2 take priority, and then the lair can come a few seconds later. Now we've got to keep macroing, so you should keep droning like a motherfucker. Every single lava on drones. And guess what? Your 3rd saturated. So we go 4 gases now. So what would have been really nice is if you took that second gas in your main base, just so it was already done. As it is, you can change the rally points back to each mineral line, like in ZvT. It's kind of like the gas explosion, right? We're kind of like,
that makes sense.
Make sure you get the gas in the main and the natural as well. So it's all 4 gases at once. And then the 4th base there's a very good 4th base timing you've got here. But the gases are actually a bit more important because we're muta focused. So just focus on organizing your drones. You're doing a good bit of manual rallying. I like that. Very nice. Very nice. Looks really good. So right now we have 4 Zerglings. let's pause for a moment.
Game.
I've forgotten
I
to
need
write
to make
down when the fuck are we going to build?
roaches.
Yeah, when are we going to build some more lings? Like when do we do that? So I think usually about maybe with the 4th and 5th queen plus go to 12 zerglings. So if we I don't have any adept pressure, we just get like 12 zerglings and we send those on the map, right? Okay. Just get scouting with them, right? The idea is just there. They can confirm, is there a third? If we don't have info, maybe pick off a probe, maybe kill 2 adepts coming in. They don't stay on the other side of the map because adepts can always sneak in, right? But it's just they're ready in case some random adepts arrive, right? So that would be cool because then we'd have a bit more map vision that allows us to see anything.
And you said that's when you start your 4th and 5th queen is when you make the extra links, right?
Yeah, I think the 4th and 5th queen's higher priority, but around then we'd add some zerglings in there. We can kind of see there's a lot of moving pieces here, so you're going to have to make this your own. You're going to be like, no, I like skipping those. I can get away with it. I only build. I just use my 4 links. If you're going to make this build your own, okay? So you're going to have to do a little bit of tailoring and focus on that, but I think that's a pretty good timing for it. We haven't built any roaches yet, which is kind of okay. When would we build those 8 safety roaches? We're going to not build them unless we need to. So we're going to base it off our scouting, okay? Or when we hit 3 base saturation, which you've just hit. So we can build 8 roaches now at 3 base saturation. Just, if there was an adept follow-up behind the Stargate, obviously that's too late. But hey, if we macro well, you'd be surprised what we can do well there. So let's build like 6 more roaches. You just started 2. We can try to take the gases on our 4th, but otherwise that Spire needs to go down ASAP. Your lair is literally finishing as we speak. It's just popping. So Spire, a few more roaches. And then what am I building? Well, if you don't have drones to build, which you don't, right? Because we don't want to drone our 4th until we have a good reason to. We just be building zerglings. Just extra lings is always good. As long as you've got those 8 roaches, right? You can always, even if there's a scary push, you can make Ravagers behind that. Ravagerling holds on against most things, right? The combo is really nice.
Makes sense. Okay.
Okay. All right. So let's get the Spire down. Handful more roaches. And then just keep building lings. Start getting ling spotters out. Watchtowers. Start getting map vision, that sort of stuff. You ready?
Yep.
Oh, rat. And if you want, you can get an Evo chamber as well. Nothing wrong with getting a +1 range upgrade. It's not the highest priority. You could stay 0/0 basically forever if you want, and just be swinging the mutas, swinging the Roach Ravager Queen. But I think you like your upgrades, and getting a +1 does add some longevity, so not bad.
Yeah.
Lots of overlords as well.
Yeah. At what point do you drone the gases on your 4th? As soon as
As soon as you can.
4th pops.
Yeah, even like you could have done it 30, 40 seconds ago if you feel safe. If there's more action going on, we might not drone the middle if our opponent's pressuring us, right? So it's just, that's going to be by feel, but definitely we can do it kind of as quickly as we feel safe to do so. So good job.
And then I just keep making lings off of this strong count until the Spire pops.
But you should be banking lava now, right? Because our Spire's almost done.
Shoot. Yeah,
and we should also have a few more Overlords on the way as well. So an extra few Overlords and get your injects going. And with your next injects, don't worry, even if your Spire finishes, you're about to have 3 injects popping. So you'll be able to build, a good number of mutas. We're saving, of course, for the minerals are needed and stuff as well. But we've got 10 more lava, and we'll have 1,000 minerals real soon. So you can see it's still going to line up pretty well. It doesn't have to be perfect. And that means we should be able to hit like an 8-minute muta timing, something like that. So obviously you already want to hide these mutas in the back of your base. They should all be rallied somewhere, right? And then kind of send them around the north of the map. And if you can even like run your Roach Sling around across the map to like their 3rd or something and just kind of go oogie boogie with it as the mutas are hitting. So like you don't want to kind of really scare them too much just yet, but like as the mutas are getting ready to go in, your Ling Roach can oogie boogie that shit.
Okay.
Now, we didn't do a fake queen walk at all. We were only on 6 queens. So we could have probably gone like 1 or 2 more queens. We definitely could have got 3 or 4 queens, like fake walking across the map. We could have spread more creep. That's going to come on top. That's the cherry on top of the cake. We got to bake the cake first, okay? So it's totally fine. We did not bother with the queen walk in this game.
Okay.
Obviously, you'd go for the probes normally and prioritize and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And if your lings could run in at the same time, because your lings are very expendable and roaches, that's awesome. From here, though, what are you doing? Roaches.
Oh,
queens.
5th base.
So you're still building mute. Oh no, you're playing air. You're playing air. You're not doing the real queen walk after, are you?
Yeah.
So you would actually never build that range upgrade with the Evo. The Evo would go down with a Baneling Nest later, because there's just no need for us to get a range upgrade. I guess we could get a melee, but that would usually be much lower priority. So yeah, it would be nothing but mutas, corruptors, and you do want to take your gases on your 5th base. So you notice you took your 5th. When you took that, you should have just boxed a bunch of workers and taken the gases at the same time. Just because you're so busy with your mutas. That's an APM sync. And you also should have been droning your 4th behind this, right? Because we want to go up to about 85 drones, right? So you could have droned the 4th, get the gases up on the 5th, about 85 drones is that peak count, and that's going to allow us to just drown our opponent in muta corruptor. Practice it on your 6th base. Take your... Oh, return to game. Return to game. Take your 6th base. Like box your mineral line on your 3rd, not that one. No, because you want the gases at the same time, right? We're doubling up on actions.
Oh, box the mineral line.
Yeah, box the mineral line, because otherwise, the thing is, we want to free up your APM, so you want to go hatch, gas, all in one action, and then later on at some point, 30 seconds, 40 seconds later, you can just select your hatcheries, build 3 drones, click the gas, build 3 drones, click the gas. And that way, it's going to be saturated the moment it finishes. Because look at this. So even now, we can practice it. Build 3 drones, click the gas. Build 3 drones, click the gas. Obviously, you can kill units or whatever if you need to do that. But if you imagine, by the time the gases are started and then you've rallied drones to them, it's going to kind of finish and already be mining gas. And it's just a way of, we want to automate these expansions because we are making the shittest fighting army in the entire game. It is the worst. It's Zerg.
Right.
It fucking sucks. But it's got mobility, and it gives us map control, so we need to spend the least APM possible to explode our economy. It needs to take as little attention. It just needs to be like, drop a hatch, drop 2 gases, build 3 drones to the gas, build 3 drones to the gas. We want it to be as automated as it possibly can, and that's going to make our ability to say, oh, you have ranged Phoenix. Oh, no, that's fine. I've got 10 Corruptors and 40 Mutas, and we're just going to shift-click down your Void Rays and your Phoenix. You know, the Corruptors will run in front to make sure they tank, and we're just going to kill your shit. And it's not the greatest fight because your units do counter mine, but I have the numbers and I'm going to keep your army small. And that's going to allow you to just crush, kill, dominate. So keep in mind, with this sort of game, your opponent could have attacked you earlier. You could have been stuck on the Roachling phase for longer, right? We could have committed to a few more queens and done more of a scary queen walk. Even with just 7 queens, right? You could have 3 queens injecting and 4 queens could have pushed forward up on this like high ground in the middle of the map or something like that. And if he sees that, he might shit his pants, right? And that's really going to maximize the chances of your mutas working and doing extra damage if he's super worried about queens and roaches coming across the map, right? So there's lots of cool things you can do here. There's obviously flexibility that's inherent. I think we've got 2 safety measures now. The pack of Zerglings, 12, I'm going to say 12 Zerglings, could be 16, whatever, that give us map control, that give us vision. So we can react with roaches as needed. We've always got 6, 7 queens. That helps us defend, right? We can always react with roaches earlier. Otherwise, it's just once we're at 3 bases, let's make some roaches, make more Zerglings, drone our gases into the mutas. So now we've got a very clear game plan that is hopefully very repeatable.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to have an idea of what I should be doing. Because it's just been a struggle with this, this matchup lately.
Too much gymnastics, man. It's what every Zerg's been struggling with. Like I said, if it's all about the early game, right? If you take damage to an Oracle and 2 Adepts and blah, 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 this build won't feel good, right? If you're just behind early.
Complete.
But as long as you can get a good solid opening, you're going to be in a really good spot, man. You're going to be in a really good spot. So solid opening, and then you can just kind of confidently overwhelm your opponent.
Have a good day, man.
You too. Good night, mate.
Peace.
All right. What's